first I want to say to anyone who ever watches this or listens to this, it's okay to say things that aren't great about Final Fantasy XIV. There's this weird, I guess, thing out there where if you criticize the game, you are pure evil. You're just super evil individual if you ever criticize the game. And I'm going to criticize some points of the game. I'm sure all of my peers here on this are going to criticize pieces as well, and that's okay. So with that said, let's get into some critiques. And then, Mira, you had a couple questions.
There were a couple things in the Hydaelyn Zodiark end that left me with a couple questions. And maybe this is something that I missed in the game. But one, it was the secret came out that Hydaelyn was a primal. And I guess I missed how, I know Vana sundered the world, but I didn't really see where Hydaelyn was formed and like how Hydaelyn became the primal. So I guess that little piece is just kind of missing for me. And then the other thing was, is Zodiark just like a living shell? Because, I thought that leading up to this, he would be like his own person. But then we got to know Fandaniel, and then Fandaniel basically like jumped into Zodiark, and then he became Zodiark. But like, who was Zodiark before that? Was he just like this like body that the Asians, I mean, I know they jump into different bodies, but like where was his personality before Fandaniel, I guess?
It was an Amarat when the end of days, I'll just call it Amarat, right? That world. What Elpis? They sacrificed half of the population of Elpis to summon Zodiark to get the ether going to stop the end of days. But then there was a faction of individuals who were concerned about Zodiark's power. So they were the ones, it was a collective group of the survivors of all that who got together, and they were the ones who kind of quote unquote prayed Hydaelyn into existence. And she actually was created significantly less powerful than Zodiark, but like her one function, her one ability is anti-Zodiark. So she was like the kryptonite to Zodiark's Superman. So kryptonite on its own is not as powerful as Superman, but it sure is powerful against Superman. So they didn't show that, and they didn't show that moment of when Hydaelyn was created and when Vanat gave up her life for that. They didn't show any of that, but they talk about it. So I can see how that would be a very easy to miss story beat, 100%. But yeah, that's my understanding of it anyway. If anyone wants to correct me if I'm wrong about any of that.
I think that's my understanding of it as well.
Awesome.
Thank you. That puts that part together for me.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. That's what this conversation's about. And if you have that question, I bet others have it as well. What was the second part of what you said?
The second one is about Zodiark. So, Zodiark is a being, but I just was wondering who he is as a person. I guess what's his personality, because we learned Fandaniel all of this time. We learned about Fandaniel, talked to him. And then Fandaniel just went and jumped in Zodiark and became Zodiark. But all this time there was a Zodiark before that. So is he just like this body that Asians can jump into and use? And then that's whoever Zodiark is? I was just kind of wondering, like, who is Zodiark then if it's just Fandaniel?
I could be totally wrong that it was never stated who he actually is.
I don't want to jump all in on this if anyone else wants to discuss that.
I don't have a proper answer to that question.
All right.
The bad to Hydaelyn's good?
Yeah. So I think
I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
We never meet Zodiark. We never meet the actual Zodiark. And to me, so Mort, you were talking about earlier, one of your favorite things was we nailed the Zodiark bit and then moved on. And I agree. I thought that was a really nice surprise. My negative side of this is exactly what Mira is talking about. So I felt that the Zodiark encounter itself was pretty hollow. There's one thing I think they had to do, and that was make Zodiark not fully powered, because all of the hype around Zodiark, if we faced Zodiark at full power, it would seem a little weird that we would be able to handle, 100% Zodiark. So that I thought that was sweet in the fight, how like some of the arms were missing and some of the tentacles were missing because he wasn't fully formed. I agree, though, it was a negative for me that we never encountered actual Zodiark. We encountered possessed Zodiark by Fandaniel.
That's a really good point. I'd never thought about who Zodiark actually was either. And so I was just sitting here thinking when you asked that question, I was like, my only real answer was like the OG Primal, kind of like question mark. I'm really,
Yeah.
they never answer at all.
And maybe it's something like the greater question is, where do primals go when they're not summoned? Like, where are they in the ethereal sea or something? I bet someone might have an answer to that. But I'm bummed in general that we didn't interact with Zodiark. That was actually my first quote unquote dislike or thing that they could have done better. Is there anything else anyone has that doesn't make sense, that could have been handled better, or you did not enjoy so much?
As good as it was, and as well as they did it, I do feel like Medion was retconned a bit because we were so hyped up against the Hydaelyn versus Zodiark, and then in comes Medion, and she ends up becoming the big bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was done very well, I think, as only the Final Fantasy team can do, but it most certainly felt retconned in. It was like, wait a second. Now, this is the bad one. They made it make sense, but it still felt cheap is the wrong word.
Yeah, for sure.
But it left something to be desired, I guess, in a little way. At least that's how I looked at it.
And it was, because it was very... What's the new Marvel movie with the big team up where they weren't around for Thanos and everyone's
The
like,
Eternals.
Yeah, that one. It's very the Eternals to me. Like, where has all this been this whole time? Why has none of this come up? And then just randomly there's this other force that no one's ever heard of. So yeah, I thought that was very true. They had to come up with something, but I guess I'm going to jump ahead of myself a little bit here, Rez, since you brought this up. One of the things I really liked about Shadowbringers, especially, I went back and watched some of the cutscenes, and I love this. Shadowbringers was scary. Like, there was that moment where the one kid was turning into a sin eater, and like his mouth or whatever stretches out all horror show. And there's parts where like Vothri at the end is just like eating, just gorging himself to become like evil Vothri. It was scary, and I dug that big time. And we only got a little bit of that at the end of Endwalker when we faced, the other parts, the other Medions, as the Endsinger. Very good, thank you. As the Endsinger, that was a little scary in that way, and they did a really good job with the reverb on the voice and making it sound big. But yeah, I feel the same, and I think it's because it was retconned in that there wasn't that emotional fear or pull or stakes, whatever word you want to use. Yeah, good point.
I also felt like Shadowbringers was a 10 throughout the entire playthrough. The ramp up, the video that was released for Shadowbringers, like, we were pumped. We were like ready. We were in Eureka every night. I mean, we were getting our gear ready. We were like, we've got to be ready for Shadowbringers. And we took months, and it was amazing. And we were pumped, and the game delivered. It was a 10 the whole way through. Amazing excitement. And then the Endwalker trailer came out, and it was okay. I didn't feel that excitement. It didn't really draw me in like the Shadowbringers did. But I knew Square Enix was going to do a great job with it. I knew they were going to pour everything into it, so I had faith in them. But the trailer itself didn't get me hyped. I think the later on trailer was a little better, but it was still, like a 7. And then the game came out, and I did really enjoy it, but it started out as a 7. And then I think once I got to the Unsundered world, Elpis, it was a 10 the whole way playthrough, and the emotion was there. It just really hit. It was awesome, but it was a little bit of a slow burn up to that point. And I felt like I had to have faith in Square Enix because it didn't quite draw me in like Shadowbringers.
Yeah, it's like the trailer team was really worried about spoiling stuff. So we got kind of a less enticing trailer for sure. Like if you think back to that Shadowbringers trailer with the little gremlin or whatever, and it's, you know, no life left to live, no fight left to fight, that whole thing. So good. So good. And then I can't tell you anything that was in the Endwalker trailer.
Yeah.
Nothing. So there's the part where Xenos takes over your body, right? And then you're stuck in random Garlean soldier. That was such a cool story beat. That was amazing. And probably one of the coolest parts ever when like you see your face be evil. So good. And I feel like that was cut way too short. I was waiting for Xenos to cause way more havoc as you, but like immediately they're like, oh, that's not you. That's someone else. You know, immediately they like solve it. And I was like, oh man, that was a big miss for me.
I forgot about that part. That was amazing. I actually had to take a few days off of the game because I saw that part and I got there and I'm like, I can't mentally handle watching my character and what's going to happen. And I remember I got to this part before Callie did. And I'm like, I need a few days break from this game. I need to process my emotions.
I do think it could have gone a little further.
Yeah.
It was a really cool idea. That was a total tip to Y'shtola. She's some kind of all-powerful wizard. And
yeah.
I think there would have been a lot more questions had she not picked it up right away.
And that makes sense because technically she's blind and she only sees ether or whatever. But I was hoping she would be MIA for a minute. You know, usually like it's like a Superman story where if Superman's always around, he just handles it. So you have to find a way to have Superman have to go to the grocery store while the bad stuff happens so that it can actually be threatening and have stakes. They needed to have Y'shtola have to go do something else. There's a rated M version of this story where like you come back, Xenos is taking over your body and just starts slaying your friends in Game of Thrones type of manner. I knew they weren't going to go that far with it, but yeah, I was hoping for a little bit more out of that.
Yeah, kind of same here. Because when it was happening, I was like, I felt panicky about it. Because I'm like, oh God, is he just going to blast someone? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I did too.
Yep.
I did too.
Yep.
I couldn't watch the scene. Literally, it took me like some time to get the courage to do it.
And I feel like they went that dark in Shadowbringers a few times. Like there were some dark parts in Shadowbringers. So yeah, I was waiting for this to be that.
A couple other things that I had is, I guess I didn't really like that Hydaelyn had to sunder the world and create suffering. I get why that had to happen, but I also didn't like that I had to destroy her because I liked her character so much. And maybe there was a better way, maybe it could have been an epic battle between Hydaelyn and Zodiark. And we got to speak to Zodiark and he was like, the super bad guy. And then Hydaelyn had to sacrifice herself to save us. And then we go forward that way, but I didn't like that I had to be her end because she was so amazing.
Well, and that would fix a couple of things. It would fix kind of the Zodiark thing feeling a little hollow, and it would fix Hydaelyn's end where she's like, you got to kill me to prove you're worthy of taking on Medion that you just met. So yeah, I agree that that would to me be a more fitting end to that. Obviously they had to get rid of both. Like at the end of Endwalker, we couldn't have Hydaelyn, we couldn't have Zodiark. That needed to end so we can walk on to the next story. Wah, wah. There was a part, I loved the Xenos fight at the end. I liked fighting Xenos, but there was a part that really, really bummed me out after you take him down. So he spent so much time wanting to fight you again. and being so excited to fight you. And we knew we were going to win. Like, that's how this was going to go. We were going to win that fight. Why was he not pumped that he got the fight that he so wanted, even if he lost? Like, to me, that's what I expected. I expected him to go down, and at first he says, well, that was disappointing, which I thought was a good way to start it. I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. This is going to be sweet dialogue. He's like, that was disappointing. And then something about regret, and do you regret? And I'm so bummed I lost. And I'm like, oh man, that is not where I wanted that to go. I wanted to be like, well, that was disappointing, but I got the fight I wanted. Thank you, blah, blah, blah. And then, floats away into the ether or whatever. So that was a diss for me. I thought that was a missed opportunity for sure.
I agree. I can go. I kind of, the forum, the way they acted throughout the whole expansion really bothered me. I mean, part of it's by design, like they were kind of, in a weird way, the partial antagonist throughout a chunk of it, but it just seemed, the whole thing felt really weird. And then when it, at the end, it just felt like it suddenly resolved to me. Like it didn't really feel like a natural conclusion. Like they just suddenly were all good to help us after being super resistant the whole time.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I didn't think of, yeah, you're right.
They were very elitist. Part of me wonders if that was supposed to be like a, I don't know, metaphor for, or allegory. I don't know which word is proper, metaphor or allegory, but if it was supposed to be like America. Yeah. If the forum was supposed to be like the United States, with the Senate and all that, and hoarding all the power and hoarding all the knowledge and all that, I kind of wonder a little bit if that's what that was supposed to mean. But yeah, it did turn too much on a dime. And I was talking to Mir about this. There's a part that really bummed me out. So they have a vote at the end, right? And they're like, who thinks we should just, more to your point, trust the Scions now because of whatever reasons? And they're all voting. And I'm sure you've all experienced this where you come across NPCs that have your character's face. Have you had this happen where you're in the game and you're like, oh, that NPC has the same face my character does? I was in the Senate and I voted against the Scions. I was super bummed. It's like my same character's face. He's like, no way. Nope, not happening. I'm like, oh man, I let myself down. It was a bummer.
Your doppelganger is evil.
Yeah, it's the worst. Rez, what's something else you didn't like?
So I definitely agree with Mort on that.
Yeah.
How they kind of just changed their mind. But you could tell that the, Louis Suave's friend or their grandpa, he was very empathetic to your cause. And I think in some way he felt bad how Alize and Alphino's dad treated them. So I think he did go on some kind of extra thing to try and make things work. But if they could have even just showed like a 2-minute cutscene of that or anything, I feel like it would have just made all the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Anything.
Yeah,
like playing politics a little bit in the background. Or I think what makes it so harsh too is they were so vehemently against, and this was all done through Alphino and Alize's dad. He was like, their father was like the embodiment of the Senate or whatever, the forum. So when he spoke, he was speaking for them basically, and he was so against it. And then just like out of nowhere, which I promise I will tie this all together. So when there's that part where you go and you're at the docks and a bunch of people show up to help you, and this is actually that moment where Alize and Alphino's dad switches sides, like on a dime out of nowhere, because he sees all of your friends show up to help. Like, I guess that's the reason. But what bummed me out about that is it was 100% the B team. And you're supposed to care about random guy from the Confederacy or whatever that you met once showing up to help you. And then the turtle guy, yeah, those quests were fine, but the turtle guy shows up to... So they did it completely backwards, in my opinion. So the main characters, your Heians and Nanimos or whatever, I guess Nanimo's in it a little bit, but the admiral or whatever from Limsa Lominsa, they are all involved in the job quests, the job storylines, and it's all text, not voice acted, and then you get the B team in the main story quest. It's all these people that, like, Lise was the most important character. If this is Endwalker, you're pulling out all the stops. I shouldn't be seeing random turtle guy and Confederate guy coming to help me. I should be seeing Hien and Nanamo and other dude from Ul'dah. I can't remember his name.
Raubon.
I should be seeing, what is it?
You mean Raubon?
Yeah, that guy, Raubon. I should be seeing them show up to help out, not the B and sometimes the C team. So that was a diss for me that is also connected to the forum's like immediate flip, is that not only did they flip too quickly, but he also flipped because of the B team, not even the A team.
So I actually did all the job quests, and I felt like that was one of the bigger letdowns of the entire expansion. I don't want to say that they felt uninspired, but I suppose they kind of did.
Mm-hmm.
It tied in all the Eorzean alliances together, but I feel like they could have done that a lot better. I mean, the one that really sticks out for me, because I guess it was one of my favorite ones, was the tank one.
Okay.
And it was just, this guy's sick, and now the Elder Seedseer is sick, and you gotta save everybody, go to the Elder Tree, and it wasn't, I would say that was one of the letdowns of Endwalker, if anything. Well,
and then think about the Shadowbringers ones, where you're dealing with, the other warriors of light, and those stories were deep and emotional and good, really good. So yeah, these ones were, not only did they waste the A team on them, but they felt pretty flat. Yeah. The only one I've done is the one where you go and help the fish people. It's like the melee DPS.
The Sahagin.
Yeah, the Sahagin.
So the melee one was Limsa Lominsa. The caster one was Ul'dah based, but you ended up going to the Alamegan Quarter. Then you had Gridania, which was the tank one. You had the Doman Enclave, which was the range physical. And the caster one was in Ishgard.
Man, I don't have... And the one in Kugani, the Doman Enclave one, that's the one I'd want to do, and I don't play a ranged
physical DPS.
Yeah, physical DPS. That's a bummer, because is he in it? At least, is he in?
Yeah.
He's the one I was waiting for, because he's in the trailer. Like, he's in the Endwalker trailer. And other than that, shows up zero in this. I mean, just to prove it was the B team, there's that moment where you meet in a hall, and it's the first time everyone gathers to help, and Lisa's there and all that. And we'll talk more when we rank, but I guess spoiler of what I'm going to say, Stormblood, not my favorite expansion. And I was most excited about the Stormblood people that came to help. I felt the most emotional about them because at least they were more present in my memory than Gridania, the Elder Seedseer's brother. Brand new character, couldn't be the Elder Seedseer. I don't know. As you can tell, that really kind of bummed me out because I'm so hung up on that piece of it.
One other thing that didn't make sense to me is when now seeing that we've gone back in time and met Vana, and she knew that we were kind of the warrior of light. And then obviously they went forward and created Hydaelyn, and fast forward, they created many warriors of light. Or she created many warriors of light, and they all had, the echo. And I guess I don't understand why she did that when she knew she only needed one warrior of light. I guess why create all the warriors of light?
I like to just think of Hydaelyn with like a dartboard of all the people, and she goes like this, and then she's just like, you get the echo, and you get the echo, and you get the echo.
There might certainly be some lore people right now watching your video, or watching all of us here. And they're probably cursing at all of us, and they're probably super upset at every single one of us, and just like, that is not how it goes.
Absolutely.
How can four people not, put two and two together on this thing that was inferred?
I look forward to it.
I hope they do, so I can be like, oh, wow, thanks for telling me.
Well, look, we've played the games. Like there's a lot of extra material that I haven't looked at,
They'll do all the side quests for any little piece of info or lore they can get.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to hear it. The nice thing is I've gotten very few nasty comments ever, and I'm so grateful for that. Like, I never get, this is trash, you're a terrible person, you should not make video, you know. And I know a lot of people do, so I'm just so grateful I've not seen that. So you're right, and I hope someone does correct us, because I think it's worth knowing. But to us, this is what the story is, and it's Hydaelyn with a dartboard passing out the echo like popsicles or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Since we're on the subject of not understanding lore and being confused, so when you're dealing with the emotions of the different civilizations in Ultima Thule, right? I don't understand what is accomplished in order to progress to the next world. Here's what I mean. So you're in the dragon one, and you get to the dragon where all the emotions are based on this dragon. And the dragon's talking to Estinian. And the dragon's like, we face war everywhere we go, and we're just gonna be dead now. Sad. And Estinian's like, no, some of your kin have gone to other worlds. And he's like, well, did they have war? And he's like, yeah, they had war, and it was terrible. And somehow that's what like fixed it. That's him totally just, I guess, telling that guy that other dragon what he didn't want to hear is what allowed us to traverse. I expected him to be like, yeah, there was war, but now there's peace. So you can find other worlds where, you know, you get along. And I thought they were supposed to fix the emotion, not like make it worse. And then in other ones, the robot one, for example, the, oh gosh, what is it? I can only think of Omicron because of the freaking thing that won't be named that we're all dealing with. But the Omicron robot one, it seemed like that we fixed that one, right? So are we supposed to be, what are we supposed to be doing there? Like, I have no clue if we're supposed to be helping or hurting.
It's a really good question, because you're 100% right. And I think there really was a missed opportunity, because the Dragon Song War ended so nicely that he could have just been like, look what happened, we live in peace now. But yeah, he really was just like, no, it sucked, it was awful.
Right, exactly. And that's what it was, the one moment where I'm like, oh, I know where this is going. He's going to talk about how there was war and then there was peace, and it's an opportunity, and you should try going to other worlds and don't give up. And, you know, nope. He's like, it was the worst. We killed lots of dragons, and lots of dragons killed us. And all of a sudden the dragon's like, and then they can go to the next one. Does anyone remember how the Ia one ended? I was trying to think, and I didn't have time to rewatch it. But the you know, the head pop off people, like, and that was Y'shtola, is that right?
And Urianger, two of them.
Okay, yep. Yeah, and did that, I don't remember if that resolved by freaking them out or by resolving it. And their issue was something to do with, they got all the knowledge and then learned that no matter what they did, that society could not go on forever, but because they had found out how to go on forever, that, you know, they stopped wanting to do anything because they knew no matter what they did, it would come to an end. And I don't remember if I thought the emotion there was resolved.
Yeah,
so
Y'shtola basically stood up to them.
Right. So it sounds like it was to rile them up. Well done. Very well done. So I'm glad we worked through that. I'm sure I have more stuff on my list, but who else has something that you think could have been done a little better, or something that wasn't as fun, or...
I think that's basically it for me. I really don't have any other negative things to put in. As far as Endwalker is concerned, it was really good for me, personally, in most ways. But as far as my negatives, that's really it.
I don't have any more.
All right, I will go then. At the end, Hydaelyn's like, when this is over, I'm going to ask you to answer the question that I asked you so many years ago, back when we were hanging out, and she didn't say all this, but I was Vanat and you were you, but it was you from when I was away in the past, and for you it was like a week ago. But that time where we were hanging out before doing quests and stuff, and I asked you a question about, do you think it's worth it or whatever? I'm going to ask you to answer that in just a minute here. Now let's fight. You never say a word to her after that. Not a thing. You answer no question. I looked for it specifically. And I talked to Mary about this, and she's like, well, I think the battle, like you winning the battle, was supposed to be the answer and all that. I think that's great. That's fine. Not near as good as if you could have like picked a thing to say to answer a question, in my opinion. That was a big miss.
In our answer to her question,
okay,
it was the battle showing her how strong we've come. How Mira had put it earlier, when she had said about almost like a parent kind of thing, and us just beating Hydaelyn and kind of looking like, hey, Ma, I did it. And the song, even in itself, that's been the staple of this game, is called Answers. Right. And to have the remix of that, I don't know. I think that it was the answer in its own. And, you know, people like Hydaelyn, because they give you the echo, they want to see like how strong you are, the feats you can overcome. And her, I would guess, would be the biggest one of all of them.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, well said.
And I think it's just a little bit different of, you know, thoughts on whether you preferred that or not. I would have liked to have picked a checkbox or a word box that was like, there, eat that, or I don't know. Because to me, the question was like, is it worth it? And I wanted to be able to say, see, yes, it's worth it. It's very worth it because of all the, you know, trials I've had and the interactions I've had. I don't know, something.
Yeah, it's
right?
really nice to hear what other people think. And it's amazing how everybody can kind of play the same game and have different opinions or different viewpoints on it. And I think that's really the beauty of games like this.
Yeah, I agree.
And to your point, I think they do have to have some stuff that's a little more obscure and not so on the nose, where you do have to think a little bit about the meaning. And that's, I think, an example of it.
I have a puzzle piece that kind of leads to where I think we're going next.
Okay.
So throughout this, especially when we went to Elpis in the Unsundered World, you'll remember back that there were many references to adventuring with the full Azem and where the full Azem is. And everyone, especially Emmett Selk and Hydaelyn, were talking about the adventures they went on with Azem. And described Azem's character and personality, and they talk about how you looked like them. But we never get to meet the full Azem. And because of that, that's why I believe that next we'll be playing as the full Azem. And if you remember back to the scene where the flowers are made for Medion, by Emmett Selk and Hydaelyn to get you to like basically the final battle. Some of the things that Emmett Selk says. So there's Emmett Selk, Hydaelyn, and then your friends are revived. So all of those people are there at the scene. And he says that he wants you to see this tale to a triumphant conclusion, and with elation in your hearts, bid the final curtain fall. Only then may it rise again and a new tale begin with new parts for all to play. So, and if you look around at who's there, you've got Emmett Selk and Hydaelyn, who you could adventure with as the full Azem. And then you have your friends that you go on other adventures with. And then he goes on to further elaborate that, hey, have you been to the ruins beneath the water of the bounty? Have you been to the treasure islands beyond the frozen waters of Blindfrost and Authard's North? Have you been to the fabled golden cities of the New World, sacred sites of the forgotten people of the South Sea Isles? And then he says, do you know the true identities of the 12? And then he goes on to say that he did all of this. And we know that he adventured with the full Azem. So
Mhm.
I believe that that is going to be part of where we go on our next adventure. And that's where Final Fantasy was trying to tell us is what's going to happen by kind of leaving that puzzle piece in. Now, in reading some of the other things that are coming out, so I believe that'll be where we're going, which is very exciting. I want to play as the full Asm. That would be sweet. So I think that'll be kind of like the back in time, and we'll get to visit all of these places and go on different adventures, and that's kind of how the story spans out. And then I think with Eorzea, we'll obviously, see new areas, but I think we'll eventually go to the future too. So anyway, that's a puzzle piece that I picked up on that I found was really exciting, and I think leads to where we're maybe going.
So first, dope that you wrote all those down, because I would have been like, go to the waterfalls of the mountains with the cattle and the, I don't know what else, the plains of the desert. So
Yeah.
good that you wrote all those down.
Oh, and
So
one
you
more
could
thing.
say-
Yeah, and one more thing added to that too. So Hythlodaeus also says, I pray we meet again. If not in this life, then perhaps another. Also alluding to he's going to be adventuring with you as the full Asm. Okay, that's it. I dropped my mic.
So second, I would play that game for sure, 100%. I do agree totally that Asm is a unclosed book, is still a not completed thread. I can't think of any other phrases to say, but it's an unfinished thing, the whole Asm piece. So yeah, I do feel like that's got to be, and they've set the precedence for time travel already. And once you open that Pandora's box, it's open forever, and you have to use it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the thought is always, well, why don't we just use time travel to do that or whatever? So yeah, that's a good. I hope that's the case. I hope that's the game.
Yeah. They set the precedence for traveling to other worlds in Shadowbringers too. So, yeah, I had completely forgotten about all of Asm's stuff. So yeah, I think that's a really good prediction for where we could be going next.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone else have anything else you would like to say to anyone else about Endwalker before we kind of dig into this last question I have in the rankings?
Nope, I'm completely good with that. But I think the conversation's been really good. I think everybody's put in some really great points. And
yeah, good chat, right?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this.
I thought it was excellent. I've had a great time.
Me too.
All right. So number one,